Max Verstappen completely lost it last weekend during the Hungarian Grand Prix. And while previously Red Bull would just cope with it, things have changed, and Horner has talked about what happened during the weekend, hitting back at Verstappen's childish comments and unprofessional sleep schedule. No mate, don't give me that bullshit now. You guys gave me this effing strategy, okay? I'm trying to rescue what's left, for F's sake. That was only one of Verstappen's comments to his race engineer during the race, which was shortly followed by his race engineer implying talk on the radio was childish, with many fans pointing out how the relationship between Red Bull and Verstappen is getting worse week by week. Could Verstappen be on his way out? However, regarding the radio chatter, Christian Horner said that Max Verstappen's race engineer, Giampiero GP Lambiase, did not call the three-time world champion childish explicitly over team radio on Sunday, following his collision with Lewis Hamilton. Verstappen had a double lockup at turn 1 as he attempted to pass the Mercedes driver, eventually going airborne as his rear tyre collided with Hamilton's front, dropping him to 5th at the checkered flag, resulting in another in a series of frank radio exchanges between the Red Bull driver and his longtime engineer at Hungaroring. The World Championship leader had complained to his team several times throughout the race about how his car was behaving, the strategy he was on, and other issues, but he was still racing down Hamilton for the podium. After attempting a move at turn 1, the Red Bull driver was catapulted skyward, resulting in a harsh landing as the duo collided wheels, with both driver and engineer providing candid accounts of the event. Verstappen yelled following his collision with Hamilton, "He moved under braking." Lambiase responded, "I'm not even going to get into a radio fight with the other teams, Max. We'll let the stewards do their thing. It's childish on the radio, childish." When addressing his driver's increasingly tense radio signals as the race ended, Horner was queried about Verstappen's race engineer's description of childish, and the team chief was keen to clarify his understanding of what he meant at the time. "GP, I think at that point actually wasn't referring to Max. I think he's referring to others on the radio complaining about penalties," Horner told reporters after the race. "So, I don't think GP's reference at that point was in reference to Max. Others are obviously goading for penalties, because obviously the stewards are listening to the radio as well. They've been together for 8 years, and there are things that we could have done better in the race today, but it's something that we'll talk about as a team." Horner has previously referred to Verstappen and Lambiase as an old married couple in their conversations, with their candid thoughts shared over time. However, following the setback of the Hungarian Grand Prix, the Red Bull team principal stated that any necessary discussions will take place outside of the public view. "Max was frustrated, we can understand," he said. "He has a very direct line of communication with his engineer, so that's something that will be discussed between the two of them. I think everybody sees that we need to find more performance. Everybody's working hard to do that, so we'll have whatever discussions behind closed doors." It was strange to see Verstappen being so heated after these years of dominance, and according to some, Max Verstappen's rage over team radio in F1's Hungarian Grand Prix came after he was sim racing till 3 AM. Could this be the reason Max was so on edge? When asked after the race what he thought of critics who believed he went too far with his angry words, Verstappen said, "They can all F off." Verstappen's anger in the race stemmed from the fact that he was seen participating in a sim race at 3 AM, according to some, on Saturday night, prompting some to speculate that he was not as well rested as he should have been. However, Red Bull believes that this had no bearing on what transpired, and that Verstappen is well aware of what he needs to do to perform at his peak. Red Bull motorsport advisor Helmut Marko said, "He was up even longer in Imola, I don't know where the sleeping times came from again, and won the race. Max has a different rhythm to me or other people, and the time he went to bed is nothing out of the ordinary for him. He didn't even wake up at 10 o'clock in Zandvoort when the helicopters flew over his motorhome. He's got his sleep quota. He's had it as usual. That's rubbish." Red Bull team principal Christian Horner said, "I think people draw conclusions, but Max knows what's required, and we trust his judgment on that. He knows what it takes to drive a Grand Prix car and to win Grand Prix and be a world champion. And look, as a team, we always work as a team, and whatever discussions of how to improve will always not take place through media. While Red Bull is not concerned about Verstappen's pre-race antics, it has hinted that some conversations about his recent behaviour may be needed, especially now that the other teams are catching up. The big question is, what does this mean for Verstappen and Red Bull's future together? Is the RB20 approaching a troubling performance ceiling? And has Verstappen become frustrated, or perhaps concerned, enough to really consider a future away from Red Bull? Verstappen's irritation when things don't go as planned is not unusual. What felt so substantial were the concerns about other members of the team. It went beyond "I'm annoyed with this specific strategy," or "I'm annoyed with this specific blunder that meant he lost a race." It aimed for something bigger, whether the entire squad is committed to the level he expects. Verstappen described the scenario similarly, accusing certain anonymous team members of failing to recognise the gravity of the threat to Red Bull. Verstappen stated that these mysterious underachievers are not on the same wavelength. He may be correct, Red Bull claims he isn't, that everyone is working as hard as they can, but he may be wrong. Perhaps the recent success and big 2024 championship leads have instilled complacency, and some members of the squad began to believe too soon this year that it would be a stroll in the park. Perhaps Verstappen's specific criticisms regarding the car's limits could and should have been addressed sooner. It's worth considering if Verstappen is managing it as effectively as he might. He is passionately focused on achieving success. It is what propels him to the status of three-time world champion, but it can also make him a stressful and possibly discouraging teammate, since he is so critical. Red Bull has long stated that it knows Verstappen well enough, and that he knows and trusts the team in return, that the connection is strong, and that such direct interactions help both parties. This was something different, Saishin, though. Verstappen has never questioned the team like this before. Perhaps he sees he has crossed a line and apologises to the team and all is okay. If not, will anybody fall inside the scope? Will there be pressure to make changes to the design team, the racing team, or Verstappen's engineering team? Is race engineer Gianpiero Lambiase the only person who can talk to Verstappen as directly as he does about the team, going to face criticism? A strange comment to make only a few months ago, but it's beginning to seem like Verstappen staying with Red Bull into F1's new era might be riskier than leaving. Red Bull no longer has F1's outright fastest car. It certainly doesn't have the strongest rate of development, and every doubt there already was about its potency in 2026 remains, or has been amplified. It will be tough for Red Bull to resist questioning Verstappen's trust in the team. Red Bull has to show improvement right now. However, it must strike a compromise between improving 2024 and 2025, while continuing to make 2026 as appealing as feasible and less risky than leaving Red Bull behind. No other front-running team needs to worry about losing its top driver until 2026, and Red Bull just happens to have the star driver that every other team would do anything to get. Red Bull doesn't need scapegoats right now, but Verstappen needs reassurance, and if he doesn't get it, that's the kind of thing that will drive him out of the team and towards Mercedes, or another team. What do you think? Can Red Bull keep Max Verstappen in check for the remainder of the season? And will he stay beyond 2025 or even 2024? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below.